Hi, thank you so much for joining me for this video. So I just wanted to catch you guys up on everything we've got going in my Introduction to Disability Studies course, and kind of what our agenda is going to be as we look forward to the last week of class. So I wanted to point out for those of you who have not looked at the syllabus yet, that Thursday, November 12th is our last discussion. So you'll have your final discussion post on Thursday, November 12th, and your last set of readings, which you have 2 sets of readings due that kind of talk about the experience of chronic illness and searching for a cure for that illness, and how that impacts your identity as a disabled person. Okay, so that. I found this on the web. Whoops, my Siri is talking to me. So that'll be our last set of readings. And then so as far as what's going on next week, you guys will actually have your open note, open text, take home final exam. Okay, so what is the final exam going to look like? Well, it's going to look very similar to the midterm exam, except now we're going to focus on all of the readings from the last month or so. Okay, so just like the midterm, you only have to answer 4 questions total, and each of those 4 questions for your response, you should have at least 3 to 4 paragraphs. Okay, and I don't care if it's single spaced or double spaced, as long as you have 3 to 4 paragraphs. And I also am going to want you to watch out for grammar and syntax and proofreading. So I'll be looking for things like typos, for sentence fragments, for all of those things. So if you got a lot of comments on your midterm about those kinds of mistakes, then I would encourage you to do a lot of proofreading. And you can also send me some of your responses. I won't look at all of them, but if you want to send me like a question or two to get my perspective on it, how you might improve, I'm more than willing to do that. Okay, so I will post the final exam probably Friday afternoon, and it will not be due until the last day of the exam period for this class, which is December 4th at 11:59. Okay, so what that means in effect is that you will have 3 weeks to submit your final exam. But that's not all you'll be working on, right? Because also on December 4th, you need to have your response papers submitted, right? But those response papers are kind of tricky, aren't they? So I say you need to have at least 3 submitted by December 4th, right? So I'll be looking for this response paper 4, response paper 5, and response paper 6, right? But each of those response papers must be submitted on their respective due dates. So what does that mean? Well, throughout the entire semester, right, every single module, and often 2 are twice within the same module, there are documents, and I'm just going to share my screen with you really quick. There are documents like this one, right? So for our last discussion on Thursday, here are your response paper prompts for those readings about waiting for a cure, right? So every time a new set of readings is assigned, you have associated response paper prompts, right? So here you have 2 response paper prompts you can choose from, okay? And you can write a paper on number 1 or on number 2, right? But each response paper is due 7 days after the reading is assigned, right? So this reading is for Thursday, November 12th, which means you must submit a response paper by Thursday, 11/19 for it to count, okay? And the same with the mental health readings, right? So the Rosenhan readings and the other readings, OCD and the NYC and all of those readings, okay? Those were due on they were due a week after those readings were assigned, right? So, and similarly, the readings that we just did on inspiration porn and disability representation in the media, right? Those are going to be due on Tuesday, 11/17, because they were assigned on 11/10, right? So all of that is to say, you still have an opportunity, if you haven't already done so, to write response paper prompts on our mental health readings that we had. You can still write a response paper on the inspiration porn and disability in mass media. And you can still write a response paper on, of course, this week's readings or Thursday's readings, okay? Those possibilities are still available, okay? But you have to submit them on your respective due dates, right? So that December 4th deadline just means you must have completed at least 3 on their respective due dates by the time December 4th, if that makes sense. Well, and you might be concerned now because you're like, okay, I have my final exam, I have 3 response papers. What if I don't get a chance by the 19th to submit a response paper, right? So if my last response paper opportunity is due on 11/19, how do I squeeze all those in if I haven't been writing response papers since the midterm ones were due? Well, I do have a solution for you. Okay, so I do have an additional response paper opportunity. Okay, so most response paper opportunities, like I said, are focused on a particular reading and are due 7 days after that reading was assigned. But I do have a one-time exception, okay? So if you wanted to do a response paper that was kind of a final reflection or analysis of what you've learned in this course, okay? That's what this new response paper prompt opportunity is, okay? So this new response paper prompt is going to be due by December 4th at 11:59 p.m. Okay, so even if you don't get a chance to write a response paper on Thursday's readings or on the mental health readings or on inspiration porn and mass media, this is an opportunity that you can do after the 19th. Okay, so if you don't get all of your response papers submitted by the 19th, I will accept this response paper by December 4th at 11:59. Okay, but just remember, you've got a lot of stuff due on that day. You've got your final exam that has to be completed by then. So I don't want you to be, wait till the last minute and have a bunch of writing to do. But you do have this opportunity if you are struggling to find or you don't have enough response papers after the 19th. So what I would like you to write in this response paper is I would like you to tell me what is the most important thing you have learned in this course and why, okay? And I want you specifically The only parameter that I have on this assignment, okay, is I want you to cite and use direct quotes from at least 4 different readings. Okay, so you can choose whatever readings you want, whether they were from before the midterm, in the beginning of the course, or whether they're more recent. It's entirely up to you. But what I'm looking for in this paper specifically is that when you talk about the most significant takeaways that you'll have after completing this course, I do want you to yoke them to specific readings and to include direct quotes or textual references from those readings. Okay? All right. So again, to recap, okay, we've got our last discussion and set of readings Thursday, November 12th, and after that you will not have to do any more discussion posts or do any more reading, okay? And then all of next week and all of the final exam period, you will have to work on your final exam. Okay, so the final exam will be up on Friday, and you'll have until December 4th at 11:59 p.m. to complete it. It will be the same as the midterm with respect to the format and requirements. Okay, but you also have response papers due, right? And so the way that the response papers are structured is that your last response paper opportunity on any of the readings must be completed by 11:19, okay? But I'm giving you this new additional opportunity for kind of a final reflection and analysis, and that will be due by December 4th, okay? So in the next 3 weeks, you'll have a final exam due, and 3 response papers due, each on their respective due dates, okay? So I know this was a lot of information, so certainly feel free to reach out if you have any questions. You can always contact me via text or email. You guys have that information available, and I would be happy to answer whatever questions you might have, all right? And I hope you have a wonderful last few weeks of the semester.